Let me say it for the people in the front. It's not about the length of time, it's about the strength of time.
Welcome to the Femme Fit Entrepreneurs Podcast. We're your hosts, Aurelia Holmgren and Brit Inez. Here we talk all things health, wealth, womanhood, and of course, ownership. So sit back or stand up straight on that treadmill and enjoy today's episode.
What's good, everyone? Welcome. Hello. I'm Brit Inez, your body goals specialist, wellness competitor, content creator, and marketing maven.
I get so excited just to hear my bestie just claiming all of them names. My name is Aurelia Holmgren. By label, I am a life coach, voiceover coach, and artist, a musical theater performer, associate choreographer. But by non-label, I'm a heart healer, people connector, hot cocoa on December 25th. And I've been told once or twice that I'm a bit of a firecracker. Pew, pew, pew. And welcome to the Femme Fit Entrepreneurs Podcast, where we talk all things health, wealth, womanhood, and of course, ownership. Gotta have our own sound.
Definitely, right?
So let's talk, Brit. So first of all, y'all don't know, Brit and I are besties. This is like coming right around our bestie anniversary. It's been 1 year. Just kind of crazy.
Hi.
Like I know. And it just reminds me, if I'm already drop a nugget real early, it's not about the length of time, it's the strength of time.
That part.
Let me say it for the people in the front. It's not about the length of time, it's about the strength of time. We've only known each other a year now, a little bit over a year. But from the beginning, like when you know, if you know, when you know. And so we decided to start this podcast. Well, I'll talk about my reasons. I have been wanting to do a podcast for a while, and people have recommended it. And it just honestly felt overwhelming to do on my own. And I wasn't really sure of the things I wanted to talk about. And so because Britt and I are heading into prep for our bodybuilding competitions in our new season next year, well, this year, by the time you're hearing this or watching, hey, we are prepping at the same time. And so initially it was like, oh, let's just do a prep podcast. And then I was like, but then what happens when we're out of prep? We have so many other topics to talk about. So that's why I wanted to start this. What were you thinking, Britt?
Yeah, so for me, I've always been wanting to have a way just to have deeper connections and conversations. You know, I've been doing a social media thing for a long time now. And there's only so far you can kind of go, you know what I mean, with the content that we're now creating. And I just wanted to have something where we can talk more into all the aspects that make us who we are, not just some of it that you might see on the highlight reel, aka social media. So when you came around and you were like, hey, let's do this, I'm like, bet, let's do it. I'm all in. Like, let's make it happen. Let's get it on and popping. And I just feel like our natural friendship just evolved into this space where we can both do this in a way that I wouldn't have thought was possible before I met you. So I'm excited to hear.
And that's kind of part of why I brought it to you, is because I knew you were going to be like, yes, and like, okay, when do you start? Let me get my equipment. I'm on Amazon right now. Like, let's go. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this really happening? And I think sometimes, and we've talked about this week, one of my friends was like, don't focus on trying to get it right, especially trying to get it right away. Just get started. And so I was like, okay, all we need is cameras. All we need is some quality sound, cute backgrounds. We already cute. So I'm like, all right, how are we going to do this? So I'm super excited. I can't believe this is episode 1 of many. And yeah, I wanted to, for those that don't know how we actually met, it was through our incredible friend, Sarah. Shout out to Sarah.
Yes.
Best. And at least from my end, you know, and this is nothing Britt doesn't know, if there's anything we're going to keep here, is a buck. And when I had saw Britt's Instagram, I was initially like, I don't know if this is someone I want to meet. And it was actually a lot of projection. There were things about her confidence, her strength, her femininity, the way her comfort in her body that made me feel a bit, I felt a bit insecure about myself. And so my way of kind of avoiding those areas that I wanted to work on was to be like, I'm good. So I did follow her and I commented and liked, you know, because any friend of Sarah is a friend of mine. But it wasn't until we had our first conversation where I was like, do you use Marco Polo? And she was like, no, but let me hop on there. And from our first conversation, I was like, this is the friendship that I have been craving for a long time. And so make sure you're not out here blocking y'all blessings because you have no idea how somebody could change your life.
Facts, 100%. And I think also in this stage of our life, like it's not always the easiest to meet new friends that you really connect and vibe with because we busy. We got a lot going on. So just being able to like have those connections with people, it's not easy. So when you came around, I was just like, I'm gonna talk to this girl. Like, because Sarah talked you up and was like, oh my gosh, she's amazing. I'm like, I feel like she is like she's super dope from what I see. I'm like, all right, I just want to talk to her and see what's up. And then like immediately, like you mentioned, it was just like things just click. And when you vibe with someone and it's just authentic, you feel like you've known each other for so much longer. Like you learn things about me over the course of this year that I have friends that took years to get to, and some of that stuff they still don't know. You know what I mean? So it just really speaks to what happens when you truly are in alignment and you vibe with the person that you're around. So
Absolutely. And just getting it, it shows we have a safe space.
yeah,
And as we're entering this new year, I think it's really important to define what safe space means. We keep it real with each other.
we do.
When we start with friend, then like, okay, tell me I was a little spicy. We some petite girls, we could be a little spicy.
Very spicy.
So,
Yes.
we keep a safe space where we don't ever judge one another. We observe, we give insight if we need feedback or if we want to be heard and not giving feedback. We're honest with each other about that. And I think in this new year, it's really important for you to define and or redefine the friendships in your life. And not everyone can be a part of every, aspect of your life. If you're blessed, you have someone like a Brit who I can talk to about several topics and even things that she doesn't know about, I can still talk to her about, but really evaluating, I always say, I am who I am because of who they are. I'm where I am because of who they are. So part of where you are, if you're not happy where that is, take a look at your circle because they're not just anything, they're everything.
Facts. Facts. You have definitely gotten me through a tumultuous year, but a year of lessons, a year of blessings, and just everything in between. So 1000%, if you feel like you're not really getting that from your friendships, it's the perfect time to reevaluate because you will be so surprised at the things you learn about yourself with the right people in your life.
Absolutely. And sometimes you gotta be like, hey, the elevator's going up. I can't take it with
Mm-hmm.
me. With love, respectfully.
Yeah.
Respectfully. All right, let's jump into some weekly tea. How that sound?
Let's do it. I got my mug ready, you know.
Hey, I might have to be prepared next time. Mine is gonna be a weekly water today.
It works.
And it matches the look.
Mm-hmm.
So in the weekly tea, we just talk about what's been going on, in the last week or two, in particular to our prep before the prep that we're in right now. As she already knows, but for y'all to know, this season has been hard. I have never, so for those that don't know, I am a competitive bodybuilder in the bikini division, and I have never started what I'm doing right now, which is a mini cut, the prep before the prep, just getting a little bit of that water weight, some of that fat off early because my body takes a while to get there. I have never done it during the holidays. I've always had a show in October or top of November. And then by the time Christmas came around, New Year's, like we was eating. So now that it's been the opposite, and I started cutting while I was doing a show in Chicago, which is where Brit's from, and the food there is so good. It's been really, really mentally tough. And I'm a mentally tough chick, but sometimes with food and with fellowship and wanting to be out at parties and socialize, like it's really hard not to keep walking over to that table and grabbing those pretzels or those little mini tacos. So the last 3 weeks were honestly really rough. And I think a lot of people that know me tend to not think I have those moments. And I think sometimes too, that's made me not want to be as vocal about it because people seem so confused. And it's not that I don't have tough times. It's mostly that my perspective, I'm able to snap back. I'm able to bounce back probably a little bit quicker than others. So people don't see it as much, but it's not easy when, your brain is literally like, give me that. You need that. You know, you want it. You deserve it. Just one time. Like you become a full on negotiator. It's almost an outer body experience sometimes. But some of the things that have really been helping is, of course, being vocal, talking to Britt about it, like, girl, I'm going through it over here, talking to my coach, because it started happening in other areas. In Spanish study, I started getting really hard on myself. And my Spanish teacher's like, calmate, like, you need to relax one day at a time, one step at a time. So starting to relieve the pressure that I was putting on myself, particularly toward the end of the year. I think we all do that. We all start to put a little bit of pressure as we're taking inventory from the year, what worked, what didn't work, what we want to do better. It was really weighing me down. And so I've taken this last week to party. We had a nice potluck. Bay and I watched movies all Christmas Day. We hung out. We just had a good time, lots of laughs. I have watched more Christmas movies than I've probably watched in 10 years. And now I'm feeling lighter. I wore this color, for those that can't see me, hot pink top and a purple headband, because I've just been feeling light and bright and like in my bag, as the kids say. So that's my tea for the week. Mm-mm.
I'm here for it. And I love it because, I get the daily downloads, right? Of it as
The hourly download.
right. Listen, sometimes it's like a couple times an hour. So it's just been really awesome for me to kind of see you go through this season and to kind of see where you are at now. And I'm just so excited to watch you next year. Like I know we're competing together, but I'm gonna be back. You're gonna hear me backstage. You hear me hollering and screaming and cheering you on. Only because I just know how much this season is setting you up for so much greatness and success next year. So yes.
Receive.
Yeah. So, all right. So my week has been a week of relaxation. I think for me, like I have always come into the last week of the year, like, all right, we're going to set all this stuff up for all these things next year and been in straight work grind mode. And this is the first year where I've taken a step back and just allowed myself to just, you know what, go take a nap. You know what, just go chill out. And I don't think that's talked about enough because everything is always about hustling and going and grinding and how much can you get done? And now's your setup for next year. And if you don't use every hour of this week, then your next year is not going to be ready. Like, you know what I mean? Like all the kind of like posts that you see on the feeds. And I'm just like, yeah, you know what? I'm not claiming that energy. So this has really been a week of kind of like rest, resetting, recharging, reevaluating and reflecting, I think is the last one because it has really gotten me into a quiet space to kind of look at, all right, how did the year go? What did we learn about ourselves over the past year? What are things I want to go into next year with? What are things I want to leave in 2023? So I really appreciate this time that I've had right along in here. And on the competition fitness prep side of it, I am in the thick of my off season. So we are growing. Your girl has carbs. She is full, happy. Okay. She is well fed.
Yeah, she is jealous.
Right. And I'm gonna look back and miss these moments.
Mhm.
But I will say, even with that, this has been the most like intentional I've ever been in an improvement season. That's why I don't use the word off season at all. And it has everything to do with just the energy I'm surrounded by now, the people I'm surrounded by now, the energies I let into myself now, and also just kind of staying super hyper focused on what I know I want next year to be and what I know it's gonna be. So it's been a lot of growth. It's been a lot of growth happening over the course of the year, the course of the season, the course of the week, and sometimes over the course of the day.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying about like taking a step back because I think particularly for entrepreneurs, for the business owners, unless you're selling, TVs or Hot Wheels, it can feel like no one's, the purchases are slowing down. People are getting, they're doing all the shopping for the 25th, but the rent is still due on the first. Amen. So people are being a little more conscious of their coins. And so to be able to still take a step back and say, okay, well, in order for me to be my best self for the next year, to bring in new revenue, I have to take a step back, which is actually going to propel me, right? So all the reflection, rejuvenation, all of that, while it's not necessarily easy, it's because our natural personality is go time. Like, let me have this all set up for the first. But even just that ease into the year, also shows how great of a year you've had. So you can just slide right into the next year because you've already set yourself up for success in these last few months. I think what tends to happen is we wait until right around December 10th, 11th to be like, okay, now I need to fix everything that didn't get fixed during the year. And so we should be reflecting and doing rejuvenation and all those things every month. So every month feels like a new year and a new opportunity. So even you just having that approach allowed me to kind of slow down. It gave me that permission that like the rent's going to get paid on the first, January and February. So you could ease up, you could chill, you can really focus on family. We've been really family focused. How can we pour into them, especially in this season of gratitude, of, really wanting to, show that appreciation for the year we've had with our loved ones. It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day stuff. So this time needs to be intentional for family and friends.
Mm-hmm. And that's been one of my greatest lessons or blessings, I should say, of the season. It's just really allowing that time because as we know, once the year gets going, we're deep in it with launches, deep in it with prep and all the other things and all the other hats that we wear. We don't always get to spend that kind of time with people. You know what I mean? So even as intentional as we can be, I just feel like the people that support us, pour into us the most, need to also have that time too. So it's been
Right.
really great. Yeah.
Especially if we start having an attitude because we hangry. It's like, you understand, remember in December when we was hanging out and I loved on you, like, you get it.
They already, my family has a running joke and they don't tell me about it. They're just like, when they know I'm hangry, they're like, oh, Britt need a sandwich today. So just, keep your conversation short.
That's
They got their
right.
own code words for me. You hear me when they know I'm just going through it, but it's all in love because they're my biggest supporters. You know what I mean? Like they get it. But yeah.
Absolutely. So, I'm all about, when I listen to a podcast, I was thinking about this in the last week. When I listen to a podcast, what are some of the things I enjoy most? And one of the biggest things is when, sometimes people on these podcasts will recommend things they don't actually use or don't actually read or don't actually watch. And when I hear them talk about something that they use or watch or that works for them, like what are some of those, I call them the guilty pleasures. It's like I'm obsessed with this thing in the moment. I learned so much from this. What are some things that in this episode want to share with people for them to take a look at, to learn about, to grow from?
That's a great question. So, I love me a good audiobook and I have been going through several of them this year. And I think for me, one of the things that I also went through this year was a breakup. So with that, I started the book Attached. It was actually your recommendation. And I know, we just pour into each other. And it has been probably one of the most eye-opening books I have ever consumed. And not only just teaching me about like myself, but it's taught me about other people I've been in relationships with. It's taught me about how my parents have been with each other. I can see my friends, like it just has opened my eyes to understanding people on a deeper level that I wouldn't have been able to do had I not been open to receiving it. So if you haven't read that book or listened to that book, however you consume your books, I highly recommend it. Even if
I'm
you
gonna drop it in the show notes.
please
Go
do.
ahead and use my
Yes,
affiliate link. I get 50
go
cents.
ahead. Yes, even if you are in a happy relationship, because it just even teaches you how you show up in the world. And that's what it's all about, right? Just being able to understand yourself so that you can be better, move better, be more intentional with everything in your life. So that's that's the first one that I got into.
Yeah, the funny thing is I haven't read it yet.
All good.
People just keep recommending it. So then when someone says something that sparks, I'm like, oh, you should read this book that I haven't read. So go ahead, hold me accountable, Bessie. Add it to the list for this year.
I'm gonna let you know. We're gonna check
No,
in.
because we keep it 100 over here. She dealt with the breakup. I'm in my second year of marriage. And, a lot of people have these ideas and expectations they kind of place on, like, oh, you newlyweds do this and y'all that. And I'm like, and sometimes we're also not that and we're not this. And so we go through the same ebbs and flows. And so I'm sure that is a book that will help me as well.
Yeah, highly recommend it.
I'll drop a guilty pleasure. So right now, my husband, Adam, he is not a reader. He don't like to read, but he likes to read together. So we started reading a book called The Compound Effect. And I thought it would be good for both of us because it, mostly talks about society wants us to constantly do these grand gestures. Everything needs to be big. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to put out this book. I'm going to go to the gym 8 days a week. Yeah, I know some of y'all out there be like, I'm gonna go every hour on the hour. And what he talks about is all we need to do is these simple, super small things to catapult our lives. And so we started reading that together at night. It was a recommendation from my life coach. And it's been really helpful because especially when it came to, and in our Q&A, Britt and I will talk about the sheet that we use to hold each other accountable and to do our goal setting. When I was looking at the sheet, it just reminded me that I don't need to do things for 2, 3 hours a day because then that becomes an all or nothing mindset, which always ends up being nothing because you feel like, well, if I don't do all of this, then it doesn't matter. Everything matters. Nothing is ever wasted. It's always stored. So my book recommendation for 2024 is The Compound Effect. And yes, that will also be in the show notes. I have a whole thing on game-changing books that have helped me along the way that I love passing on to other people.
Dope. Love it. Love it. So now you know a little bit about what we're reading, on to what we're listening to. I know you mentioned some podcasts and you have been really into, I keep hearing this podcast often. But first, let me just say this. I have never heard you mention a podcast this much before, ever, since we've met. And I'm just like, this girl really loves this podcast. So I think you should definitely let us know, let everyone know the tea behind what you currently are binging in your ears.
There's two, but I'm only going to drop one today. And it's for all my Black and brown girls out there. It is a podcast called Brown Ambition with Tiffany and Mandy. Tiffany is also known as the Budgetnista. So I'm sure you have. If you haven't looked her up, go ahead and do that. That was part of what connected Britt and I is that we listened to her book at the top of this year, getting our finances. There's always new levels to finances. Is you don't arrive. There's always something more you could be learning or doing. And Mandy is a career coach who specializes in helping people negotiate, especially women, negotiate their rates in the corporate world and how to ask for raises and all that. And I've never worked in the corporate world, but negotiations happen everywhere, right? Where money's always on the table to be negotiated. So what I really loved about their podcast, and I think it's also inspired me to want to start a podcast, is their connection, their friendship. So even though you're listening to them, spit all these gems, you also feel like you're just sitting with them on the couch, having, a glass of wine, having good conversation. Their Q&A has been very insightful for me as well. It also lets you know people are out there dealing with the same thing. You're not alone. And so I definitely recommend Brown Ambition on everywhere you get your, look, I sound like I'm part of their anywhere you get your podcast.
Yes, yes.
What you listening to?
Love it. So I listen to a few different podcasts, but the one that I feel I have gotten the most from is really random. It's called Stuff You Should Know. Now, this is a show about absolutely just random stuff about nothing. But one of the things that I really love is just to be able to just have random facts about elephants, giraffes, whatever the case may be, kind of like table topics. Because one of the things that I came into this year wanting to do better was just to be able to have more interesting conversations with people. And I found that I'm like, okay, well, I want to learn more stuff. So what can I do? So I started listening to this podcast called Stuff You Should Know. And each episode, they feature something different. It might be a historical moment. It might be the history of a certain animal. It might be around like a behavior or a habit that we just have adopted as a society. And they have a kind of a funny banter that they go back and forth with it, but it's really topical. And I find myself remembering what they talked about, which I feel is a telltale sign of a good podcast. Because I feel we're in an age of information overload, and it can be really easy to just kind of like in one ear, out the other, right? But when I'm able to then recall stuff that I've heard and like learned on their podcast, I'm like, oh, okay, I remember that from this. So if you are into something that you're just looking for something really lighthearted, learn some random facts about stuff you should know is a good one to check out. And they have like short ones too. So they have like 15-minute episodes, and they have some that are like an hour long. So if you got drives ahead or whatever you might be doing out and about running errands, they got something for you.
That's so interesting because sometimes I'm driving and I think of random things. I'm like, this is something I need to YouTube or Google, but I'm always like, how to properly make the bed, how to properly fold towels like the hotels do. I just think of random things throughout the day, how to actually do laundry properly. Well, it's like things that you've just been doing all your life that you're like, there
Mhm.
has to be a better way.
Yeah.
And
Or it has to be I've learned so many stories behind stuff. I didn't know how to story behind it. Like even when you're driving on the expressway and like you see those signs that say gas, food, and all that, there's a whole science behind why those signs are structured the way that they are. I mean, just the most random stuff you wouldn't even think about. So I've been really enjoying it this year.
I'll say I'm gonna definitely listen.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Should we jump into some food?
Let's
Ooh,
let's
is
do,
that not the guilty pleasure people
yes.
are waiting for?
Yes, let's do it. We can talk about it. We talk about it. So everyone who knows me knows the girl loves a good donut. It's no surprise, no reason. That's why I have
Insert.
almost a dozen mugs. Now I get donut gifts year round, I feel like from people. But I think it's one of those things where the most surprising thing for me this year has just been how I have shifted my focus from food. So I used to, in my improvement seasons, off seasons, be like, okay, well, I get my weekly free meal. I'm going to make sure I get me some donuts in because I have to get them in now because when prep starts, I'm not going to be able to. But I've been finding the last couple of times I've gotten donuts, girl, I couldn't even finish it. Like literally got my favorite donut, was ready, had my lips all set for it, and was like, "Mm,
It's all
it was,
right.
yeah, or it was too sweet, or it was something just, I just didn't enjoy it as much. So I feel like I have been shifting my focus from being so food focused this improvement season,
Hmm.
which I have not always been that way in past seasons. And that's a big reason why I'm where I am now with composition and everything. And a lot of people keep asking, well, have you been enjoying your donuts? And I'm just kind of like, yeah, meh, kind of. Not really. So for me, what I have been really enjoying even more are like food sauces. So I have been really getting into different ways to spice up, the diet is a diet, right? So have to find it's the diet, right? I don't, it's just the same stuff day in and
Only
day,
so many ways you can make chicken.
chicken rice, beef and rice, like what are we going to do? So I have been experimenting with different sauces, and I have been finding some that I really, really like. So I have been getting into that a lot more. I am not affiliated with this brand I'm getting ready to mention in any way. So I'm only mentioning it because I like it, but I have tried, I have been getting into the flavor gang sauces. So those have been really good lately. And I've been trying some other ones that are just local to HEB. I'm in Texas. For y'all who don't know, I don't know if I mentioned that. So HEB is a local grocery store here, and they have sauces that they make. Like just, I think you can probably get them online. But some of those have been really good, and they're macro friendly. You know what I mean? So we got to be conscious of the carbs, the sugars, the fats, and everything there. But I've been really experimenting with that and trying different recipes. I think that's been another thing for me. So I have been getting into this cheesecake recipe that's made with protein powder, fat-free cream cheese. Listen, girl, the whole bit, whole
Not
bit.
playing. You're not
Listen,
playing.
not playing around at all. I've done a pumpkin one now. I've done an Oreo one now, and I'm going to test around with a strawberry one. Probably by the time you guys hear this one, I would have done.
Hmm.
And it's just been really fun to try out different stuff. I can share it with my clients, share it with my peeps. And yeah, those are few of my few of my food faves right now.
Yes. Well, for those that don't know, I'm not much of a cooker, but this holiday season, my husband was talking so much crap. So I was like, I gotta do it. So my first recipe that I did, and this has been years since I've been doing bodybuilding, I haven't really been cooking with intention, I should say. And I made a chicken pot pie, and it was a hit. It was a hit. I also made some Brussels sprouts, some balsamic vinaigrette. honey Brussels sprouts. I made some mashed potatoes, which for me is a big deal. But I too haven't been feeling that food focus. I've actually been out of love with some of my normal go-tos. So I'm really big on like food hacks as well. And so one of my favorite is homemade cereal. So I take 3.5 lightly salted rice cakes, crumble them up. I throw my vanilla whey protein on it and some almond milk. And I use that as one of my meals before I go to the gym. And if I'm in deep in improvement season and I can have a little more carbs for my root beer floats, I like to do a diet root beer soda, Halo Top, the sea salt caramel, I think is what it's called, kind of like dulce de leche, and my whey protein. So I get a whey protein root beer float. So those are some of my hacks. I haven't done them. I think I may do one just for New Year's, but then after that, it's game time. So moving out of rice cakes, which I eat almost every carb meal, and I've been moving back into cream of rice, mainly because it slows me down. With the rice cakes, I can just tear them up 5 seconds, and I tend to eat way too fast anyway. And when you're in prep and you don't have that much food, you need to savor. So the cream of rice, because it's so hot, you have to take your time. So I think it's also making me calm down and slow down. So we're going to be moving out of the rice cake gang and into the cream of rice.
That's one I could never get into. All these years I have
Cream
never
of
really,
rice.
girl, no, I can't do cream of rice. Oh, it's a texture thing. So cream of rice,
Yeah,
stuff like that. And I know people rant about it and love it. And I didn't try it. I can't do
that
it.
makes sense. I'm not a huge oatmeal person either. Sometimes I just eat it with milk, like cereal. I don't even cook it. I just eat it like the flakes,
Okay.
like a cereal. But yeah, you ain't missing
Um,
that.
I am. I'm sick of my rice. I'm good.
All right, so let's talk about, there's many life lessons we learn on the daily. But what this segment is about, why ain't nobody tell me? Like, what are the things that you wish someone would have told you? You might not have listened, but at least you would have wished somebody had told you and you would have done differently. And mine's a little silly. Mine was that all Brussels sprouts are not created equal. So I decided to jump back into Brussels sprouts for my veggie source, but I got frozen Brussels sprouts. All Brussels sprouts are not created equal. Let's just say I'm glad I'm married because my husband might have left me if we were just dating because I was blowing his house up straight up. Soon as I ate one piece, my stomach was hitting the double Dutch game, and I wish someone had told me frozen Brussels sprouts are not the move. Don't do it to yourself.
I'm sorry, friend.
We better now, though. It was an experience. And once you buy it, you feel like you got to finish it. But after a while, I was like, I can't do it anymore.
Uh,
You wish somebody told you.
well, first of all, I'm a little spicy and I'm also a little hard-headed. So I can't say I wasn't told this lesson because people did tell me, but I didn't get it until 2023. I'm gonna go ahead and say pink flags are red ones. Pink flags are red ones.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in any aspect, right? When it comes to like looking at how people move, looking at opportunities, like if it's given a little ounce of pink, it's gonna be red. And I think one of the things that I appreciate the most about our friendship is, people don't know this, but your nickname is Target, okay? Because when
Because I go there every day after the gym.
well, we can go with that part, but it
Guilty
really is
pleasure.
because when I have told this girl anything about what has been going on in my life, whether it's like a person I was seeing or an opportunity, and she was like, "No, friend, I'm gonna be honest with you. That actually is gonna probably end up like XYZ." And I'm like, "You think so, really?" Each and every time she's right. Okay. So I think for me, it has just been understanding that I know I have a tendency to give a lot of people the benefit of the doubt and just to focus on the positives and just to focus on all the stuff that, the shiny parts. But it's really been a year of me being able to also see the other piece of the puzzle that I don't always, focus on. And understanding that that also completes a situation, right? So it's not just the shiny parts, but it's also the not so bright parts. And you got to look at them all together. You can't just look at one in a vacuum. So my biggest lesson has just been, pink flags and red flags.
And I think that just speaks to your heart too, though. Like, I'd rather be around someone who chooses to always see the good in people than a pessimist who always chooses to see the bad, that have been
Yeah.
jaded, people that have been jaded by a person, by an industry, that even when you come with your good news, they're like, I don't know, because of their own experience. So I think it just speaks to like all of our best qualities and all of the qualities we try to hide from people can be a gift and a curse in any moment. It just depends on how it's used.
Facts.
So y'all, pink flags or red flags, and don't go buying no frozen Brussels sprouts.
So how about we get into, I know this is the word that you don't like to use, but when it comes to everything that we do, we talk about balance, right?
Yeah.
So I think, whether that's minding our business, minding our Black-owned business, our bodybuilding business, right? Balance is one of those things that I feel we are always, or people are constantly seeking to get. So what has it been about with you, with getting that?
Well, my thing with the word balance is I use the word counterbalance. So it's a term I learned from a book called The One Thing. And it's this idea of if everything is in balance, our energy can only be divided. It can't be multiplied. So that means if there's 8 major areas in my life, I have to split that 100% up. And so if I'm balancing it, they're all getting, 10 to 15% of my time. And so with the idea of counterbalance is giving more time towards something or 2 things. And then once you've really, put a stamp on it, you've made headway, you have some accomplishments there, going back in another direction toward the other things that may have been neglected. And so in my life, I was dealing with balance. I was doing way too much. And, my relationship suffered, my career was suffering, my health was suffering. And so with counterbalancing, the idea is, okay, this last year I was in improvement season. So bodybuilding was not at the top of the list because it wasn't the most important thing. But now, as we're heading into prep, that is going to take most of my time, which means I won't have as much free time to do the other things that I've been doing. So focusing on counterbalancing gives me the freedom to say, okay, I'm intentionally putting this to the side to make sure that while bodybuilding is a priority, I also have a home to come to, at night, because it don't matter what you have going on in the world if you don't have people in your life to literally come home to or to talk to on the phone, because you've been so distant because of the thing that you're doing. And so, Mondays are my favorite day of the week. For most people, it's their least favorite because the weekend they're like, turn up, back to Monday. But for me, Monday is the biggest refresher for me. So the fact that Monday is the 1st of January, I'm like, okay, God, okay, universe, I've been a good girl this year, like you talk to Santa, I've been a good girl. And I just love that I can use Mondays to prep my weeks. On Sundays, I do all my friends, family time, church, all those things. But then Mondays, I really love using every morning. I go to the gym, I go to my favorite cafe, I talk to the same barista there when I'm there, and I get 3 hours of intentional work done. And that's just my me time that allows me to be the leading actress in my life. Whereas sometimes we start the morning, 2 hours on social media, and now we become the background actors, and all these other random people on these reels that you'll never meet, become the leads. So for me, getting closer to counterbalancing properly is about setting my week off right.
Love it. Love it. And we also keep each other accountable to that. Okay. Like we hold each other's feet to the fire. So when I say your circle is going to really help you out, I truly, truly do mean it. Cause I'm like, okay, you ready for your focus time, friend? Like, all right, this ain't your work day. This is your rest day. Like it just goes both ways. So for me, it has been more taking that time to not be in work mode, because I know my natural tendency is to, if I'm not working, I'm thinking about work, or in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about the next thing or the next thing. So being able to be fully present in those moments where I'm taking that time to relax and recharge And one of the books that I read this year that also helped me out a lot was a book called Play. And it basically talks about how when you take a break from doing whatever you were doing, like work-wise,
Mhm.
you are subconsciously working through challenges. You're working through problem solving things that you are working to figure out. So what I've been finding is, and what's been so cool about it is, I'm spending more time with family, friends, loved ones. But when I come back to work, I'm so much more productive because I'm refreshed, number one. Number two, I feel better because the people around me are better. And then number three, I have worked out things that I was struggling with figuring out because I took that time to take a step back from it. So that to me has just been a game changer for me for this year, because I know when I first started 6 years or so ago, when I was doing this whole like, okay, I'm gonna start my own business thing, this is gonna be it. It was the Gary V work 24/7, stay up late, get up early, sacrifice everything. Who cares who sticks around? Like, that was so my mentality. But I'm so much softer now with my approach with everything. And yeah, it just feels very great to kind of be in this kind of more of a flow state. So I know we kind of talked about in guilty pleasures, but another book I totally recommend you listen to is called Play or Read. It's going to
Yeah.
help out so much.
Soft season, femme season, living in that, and we'll talk about that more in other episodes, living in that feminine energy, especially when it's easy for you to start to have that alpha personality. It's like, oh, hold on a second.
Mhm.
Ease up, girl. Like, chill.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, well, this has been wonderful. As we wrap this up, I always like to end anything with a little bit of a challenge, something for folks to do until we meet again. And so my challenge wraps around the compound effect, and it is to take some time to jot down. It could be, I tend to like to do one weekday and one weekend day. So you can choose Saturday or Sunday and then choose a weekday and just start to jot down how you spend your time. So even if that's sitting on social media, jot down how long you're going to sit there on social media. If it's watching TV, if it's cooking, if it's spending time on the phone with a family member, if it's going to the gym, start to take a look at how you're spending your time. Because a lot of times we're like, there's not enough hours in the day. And there are enough hours, but we're not necessarily utilizing them as efficiently as we can. So there's no judgment if you sat for an hour and, we're scrolling on TikTok. That's your business, as Tabitha Brown would say. But jot that down and say, okay, well, if TikTok means that much to me, what can I be watching more intentionally on TikTok? Maybe I'm interested in a certain business venture. Let me see what people that are doing that are doing. How can I, what we talk about from the One Thing book, from Atomic Habits, is how can we habit stack things? So maybe I'm stretching while I'm watching TikTok. So at least I'm making sure that I'm doing the thing I don't feel like doing while I'm doing the thing I want to do. And then, if you find you've got some results going, hit us up. You have all our information in the show notes. Let us know what you discovered from that time.
Love it, love it. And for me, my challenge to y'all is to schedule in some daily play. I feel like we become so wrapped up in our to-do list that we tend to put ourselves on the back burner and at the bottom of that list. And we tell ourselves, oh, I don't have time to relax or unwind or whatever the case may be. Even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes of something, scheduling that time in daily, I promise you, I guarantee you that to-do list is going to be there when you get back to it. And you're going to be so much better for it if you find ways to infuse that play into your day. So
I love that. And something that I do when I'm doing that, because sometimes you could be getting your nails done and all these things that you start thinking about you got to do. Just open your notes section, jot it down, close it.
yep.
That way your brain can say, because most of the time it's you trying to retain that information. Like, don't forget you got to do this. Or you go to do it in that moment so you don't forget. So just to add on to that, if that moment comes, you could even be driving and something hits you, just put it in, hit that, get to the stop sign, get to the red light, put that in your notes and keep it moving. Oh, well, cheers to our first episode.
Yes, this has been amazing, and for so many more to come. So Make sure
Yes, this will be dropping like your paycheck every 15th and 1st of the month. Let us know your thoughts. Send us your questions. We talk all things health, wealth, womanhood, ownership. Any questions that you have, I don't think there's any topic, together we couldn't cover. So,
you got it.
and oh wait, you got to do the like, comment, subscribe.
And wait to connect with y'all.
All right, y'all. Peace.